So things got really interesting for Bayley this week. She was supposed to compete for the title at SummerSlam and was more than likely going to win the title again, but she ended up getting injured. And you have to wonder now if maybe this will end up being a good thing for her in the long run, considering that fans were just starting to turn on her. So this pretty much verified what I was worried was going to happen last year. Now the same ones that were crying because she didn't debut at the draft are the same ones who are sick of seeing her now. And that doesn't have to do with how weak she's been booked either. In fact, they'd probably have turned on her a lot quicker if she was booked any stronger. I think it has more to do with the NXT effect. And I've been meaning to do a video on this for a while, but there's some things on NXT that only work because of the limited TV time. Everyone is saying now that WWE is ruining Bayley's character, when in fact, it's no different than the one she had on NXT. The only difference is that now it gets more TV time. Shut the fuck up! So the more you see of her, the more noticeable her flaws become. So I think this little break will end up being better for Bayley in the long run than if she were to have won the title at SummerSlam. Because if they were booing her now while she's injured in the middle of the ring, you can bet it would have gotten even worse if she did win the title. So now let's get into the Q&A portion of the video. Do you think that Eva Marie only wanted to promote herself and become more famous? I do think at some point she wanted to take wrestling more seriously, and she tried putting the effort in to do so. She went through the whole training process with Brian Kendrick, she went down to NXT to redefine her career, and she actually ended up becoming pretty solid toward the end of her career. So I don't know whether it was because she was just using WWE as a stepping stone, or maybe she was just sick of the obnoxious neckbeards, but either way, it does suck losing her, considering that she was one of the greatest heels in the history of wrestling. No matter how much smarks try to say that, oh no, that was just get off my TV heat, you guys realize that's the exact same mentality of a 10-year-old, right? That's the exact same reason, in fact, that as a child who thought wrestling was real, I hated the hell out of JBL and Triple H back in the day because they were such mean men that I just wanted them off my TV. I would even turn off my TV whenever they won a match because that's how much I hated seeing them. That's the exact same type of heat that Eva Marie gets from the smarks. But that's another rant for another time. Point is, Eva Marie was a legend in the wrestling business, so this is a pretty big loss for the company. What are your thoughts on Asuka's record-breaking title reign as NXT Women's Champion? Personally, I feel that it's really hurt the rest of the NXT women because they don't gain much of any credibility. One thing I don't really understand is why people keep acting like every day that she holds the title is another incredible accomplishment. You want to talk about statistics? How about this one? Asuka has wrestled a total of 18 television matches since she won the title 16 months ago. That's barely an average of one match a month. Now, this isn't a knock on Asuka or anything, but I just don't understand why anyone thinks that any NXT record is supposed to be impressive or relevant. To the same point I was making about Bayley, if Asuka had this exact same title reign on the main roster, fans would have gotten tired of it already because booking like this only works on NXT. But aside from that, I do agree that the title reign has kind of hindered the division a little bit, because all you have to do is ask yourself this: how many new stars has the division really created since Asuka won the title over a year ago? If anything, it's only gotten weaker. However, I don't entirely blame the title reign for that. I think NXT just really sucks at creating new stars, which is why the only stars from NXT that have actually been successful are the ones who are already big stars in the indie. In fact, the only reason why the NXT women became as big as they did was because they were the first women to ever get main event type booking. So once they all left, it doesn't seem like NXT even knows how to create any new stars in the division. What could have made Naomi's title reign less shitty? The thing about Naomi's reign is that it doesn't seem like WWE actually believes she's their top star. It seems like they only gave her the title just so she can have a feel-good WrestleMania moment, like they did with Zack Ryder last year. But ever since then, it seems like they don't really know what to do with her as champion, which is weird because The division has revolved pretty much around a bunch of number one contenders matches for the last few months just to see who gets to challenge Naomi for the title. But Naomi herself isn't an essential part of that storyline. So Naomi hasn't really felt like a necessary part of the division since she won the title. I compare her reign to Layla's reign in 2012 and Caitlyn's reign in 2013, which is another question this guy asked that I'll touch on briefly here as a comparison. Caitlyn was one of the most irrelevant champions in WWE history because WWE wasn't invested in her. They just put the title on her so she could have her big moment, and because Eve was leaving. So she was pretty much a last resort for them at that point. It was obvious that they didn't know what to do with her once she won the title, so they just had her hold on to the title until they were ready to give the belt to AJ. Naomi's reign is almost identical to that, in that it's obvious WWE isn't focusing on building her up. They're just letting her hold the title while they'll build up other women like Lana and Carmella, and also because they're not ready to put the title on Charlotte or Becky yet. So Naomi is just there to be a transitional champion until then. Now, as far as if there's anything that can fix her title reign, at this point, I don't really think so. On the contrary, I think she probably has to lose it. If she were to get screwed out of the title by losing it to Carmella via cash-in, then that would do more for her character than, say, going on an Asuka-type winning streak of squashing the entire division until WrestleMania. Do you think Alexa Bliss is being overpushed? Well, yeah, I mean, she hasn't left the title picture pretty much since she debuted on the main roster. And I'm a little mixed on that because I do think Alexa should be one of the top stars. She's one of the best overall talents that they have. But again, the fail Kim booking never really works. I will say, though, that at least her push has been consistent. You know, we often complain about how WWE needs to create new stars, and there's no doubt that Alexa Bliss is a star now. She might even be a bigger star right now than the entire Horsewomen right now, which I didn't even think was possible. I think one of the main problems isn't so much Alexa's push as it is how weak they're booking the rest of the division. You can have a strong champion as well as a strong division, but for whatever reason, Raw just seems incapable of doing that. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that they've already decided on their 4 stars that they're going to build the division around. So long as they maintain that formula, none of the other women are ever going to be allowed to go over in any feuds or even be in the title picture, because ultimately everyone else in the division is just there to put over those 4 stars. So even when they do get out of the title picture and branch off into their own side feuds, the whole point of those feuds is just to keep them looking strong until they go back in the title picture. So I think that's the main problem with the Raw division right now. It's not just Alexa's push, it's the whole 4 horsewomen booking in general. Did Lana deserve to have all those title matches handed to her? I think the main reason they put Lana in all those matches was because they realized at the last minute that they weren't doing anything with Naomi. Aside from that, I do think they've handled Lana's push pretty well so far, as the valiant baby face that just wants to prove she belongs in the WWE. She's even managed to make Tamana somewhat more interesting, which I didn't even think was possible. So if anything, I say they haven't gone far enough with her push. In fact, I think it would have been awesome if she actually beat Naomi for the title. But it seems like they're going to take their time with building Lana up before they go all the way with her. She does make a really good character to have in the mid-card of the division to give us interesting feuds outside of the title picture. How do you feel about how Mickies James has been treated badly since her return to the WWE? You know, it's pretty sad because anyone who just started watching wrestling 5 years ago would think that Mickies James was just some random jobber. And since they've already erased the entire history of the Divas division since Trish and Lita left, and I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's just that Mickies James just wants to put over the new talent, but she's not doing anyone any favors by becoming a full-time jobber, because now being in a feud with her is no better than being in a feud with Alicia Fox. And I think a big reason for why she's not being treated any better is because the fans aren't really reacting to her anymore, which is pretty sad, especially considering these same fans will mark the hell out for any jobber from NXT. But the fact that Mickies James doesn't seem to draw much interest from the fans is likely a big reason why WWE isn't interested in booking her any better. And that just sucks because we've all been fantasizing about a Mickies James return for years. And now it feels like she's just ruined her legacy by coming back. So one of the questions I got asked about the most was on Summer Rae and her future in the WWE. And I get why people are concerned about it because it doesn't look so good. I think she's been cleared to return for just about a year now, and yet they're not even using her for house shows. Usually when that happens, it means that she's been phased out of the company. So the signs don't look good. But even if she's not being phased out, I still don't see her future looking so good either way. Ever since Total Divas, it seems like WWE just kind of gave up on Summer Rae. Or maybe she just pissed someone off backstage because they seem hell-bent on holding her back at whatever cost. So even if she did end up making a return to the ring, I still don't think there's much they're going to be able to do with her. And that's a travesty. So I got a few questions about Velvet Sky's retirement and if she'll ever be inducted in the TNA Hall of Fame. When it comes to the retirement, the only thing that upsets me is that she never got a run with the WWE. The potential for her there would have been huge, but since that was never going to happen, I guess I'm fine with her retiring. She pretty much already solidified herself as a wrestling legend, and there was nothing left for her to do in TNA. In fact, she was way too good for TNA, despite their constant attempts to sabotage her, so I'm glad she got away from there. As far as will they ever induct her into the Hall of Fame, I think TNA is just going to have to drop their Hall of Fame thing altogether, considering that everyone on the TNA roster is now on WWE. Or hell, if that's the case, they might as well just induct Velvet Sky this year since she's the only real star they can induct at this point. Are you ever going to continue Die Paige Die? You know, I kind of want to because there's still so much to bury her on, but at the same time, it's probably pointless because her career is practically over by now. So I guess I'll leave that up to you guys. If there's a demand for it to come back, then I will gladly bring it back tomorrow.